I'm Laura, the movie queen's ace agent. We've been in love for 6 years, but we've never dared to make it public. However, she recently confessed to being involved with her first love, a D-list actor, right on the red carpet. Since that moment, I've become the biggest fool in the industry. Not long after, she lost both fame and fortune, and in desperation, she cried and knelt before me, begging for me to save her from the abyss. But I walked away, smiling, leaving without a single trace. Sorry, you're blocking the way of the real movie queen of my life, I thought. This marks the 6th year of my secret relationship with Laura. At the beginning, Laura told me it was better not to disclose our relationship for the sake of her career, and I, as her agent, agreed. But then, just as we were celebrating our 6-year anniversary, her first love, Makoto, reappeared. Everyone in the circle knew that Makoto was Laura's one true love, the one who had always occupied a special place in her heart. Years ago, Laura had left her family for him, causing a huge scandal. But despite his charm, Makoto came from a family of thieves, and no parent would want their daughter to marry into such a background. In the end, their relationship fell apart. The reality of life was just too harsh. When Makoto boarded the ferry and left the country, Laura chased after him, crying, but all she could see was his retreating figure. He didn't even leave her with a single word. From that moment on, Makoto became a painful memory that Laura carried with her. Later, Laura's family sent her into the entertainment industry, and with time, her painful love story faded into the background. As the ace agent of an entertainment company, I got to know her, and we became close. Laura claimed she fell in love with me at first sight and pursued me persistently before we finally got together. Thanks to my connections in the industry, she quickly gained opportunities with top directors and won Best Actress at an awards show. On that special night, standing on stage, she thanked me tearfully, but only as her agent. It was her first award, and she was so overjoyed that she drank heavily to celebrate. After getting drunk, she threw herself on the bed, holding my waist and refusing to let go like a spoiled child. "Marco, do you think I've made it now? Can you see me?" she asked, her hands trembling as she gently caressed my face, but it seemed like she was seeing someone else through her eyes. "How could I leave you, baby?" I said, laughing foolishly at her happiness. But later, when I saw Makoto again, I realized just how much I resembled him. The similarity between us was so striking that with just a thin veil, one could easily mistake me for him. No wonder she said she fell in love with me at first sight. No wonder she acted so emotional that night, speaking to me as though she were in awe. His name is Makoto, mine is Marco. It's as if all these years, she was never really calling my name. What about me, Marco? The one who worked tirelessly for Laura's career, always by her side. I was merely a substitute, a grain of rice that could never compare to the white moonlight in her heart. It was truly ridiculous. The first time I saw her reunite with Makoto was during a talent show. Laura was a special guest mentor for that episode, and Makoto was one of the contestants. The moment he saw Laura on stage, his composure shattered, and he messed up his dance moves. "You, contestant, are you afraid of the stage? Or haven't you practiced enough? Dancing like that, you should go home and sell sweet potatoes. Being a star isn't for you." The harsh mentors criticized him, exposing his lack of connections. Makoto bit his lip in disappointment, staring longingly at Laura, the only silent judge. I was backstage, watching Laura. Even though she didn't speak up for him, her eyes were red. The emotions of their reunion, the years of hurt, they were all there, clear for me to see. Even as a movie queen, she couldn't hide her feelings. It was something I had never seen in her before. Watching her like that made my heart ache, as though I was biting into an unripe plum, bitter and uncomfortable. Although Makoto was supposed to be eliminated, Laura strongly requested that he be kept on the show. The entertainment industry, always so cutthroat, was no stranger to such backroom deals. That night, after the contestants who advanced were sent to a banquet, I joined Laura there. The banquet was filled with influential figures and old bosses, still driven by their desires despite their age. Makoto, with his handsome looks and flirtatious eyes, quickly became the center of attention among the older men. Soon, a heavy-set woman tried to make Makoto her sugar baby, insisting that he drink wine from her mouth. "Oh, handsome boy, come over here and serve your auntie," she smirked. beckoning him over. Makoto's reluctance was obvious, and I couldn't help but feel a sense of schadenfreude. But then I couldn't laugh anymore. Laura's reaction was even more intense. Watching him being humiliated, she bit her lip, and under the table her nails dug into my palm until it bled. As the woman's thick lips were about to touch Makoto's face, Laura lost it. "Enough! What are you doing? This is disgusting!" she shouted. "This banquet is my greatest humiliation," she muttered under her breath, shoving me away and grabbing the wine in front of her. Without a second thought, she threw it in the woman's face. "Laura, you're drunk!" I cried, sensing the impending trouble, but she didn't listen. Grabbing Makoto's hand, she walked out, not looking back. The others at the table exchanged glances, and the fat woman's face turned an alarming shade of red. I knew then that it was over. Laura had just offended the show's biggest investor, and we were done for. Laura left with Makoto, leaving the mess behind for me to clean up. That night, I drank until I couldn't remember how much. I ended up in pain with a bleeding stomach, collapsing on the floor. Their words echoed in my mind. "Marco, isn't Laura your woman? Being cuckolded in front of everyone? Doesn't it feel better than this wine? You can't even control the woman you made famous. What kind of man are you?" Before I passed out from the pain, I felt a gentle touch on my face. When I woke up the next day, I was in the hospital. The nurse told me that a girl, probably a kind waitress, had brought me in. I reached into my pocket and pulled out my phone. There were no messages from Laura all night. It seemed that Makoto's appearance had completely made her forget about everything else. I didn't have the heart to rest, so I pulled out the IV and left the hospital, putting on my coat. When I got back to Laura's house, I saw her car parked in the yard. Perfect. I had something I needed to tell her, not just about our relationship, but also about my contract renewal. "Makoto, don't go!" I froze in my tracks at the sound of her calling out his name, seeing the two of them intertwined in the yard. Laura clung to Makoto from behind, her eyes red and pleading, behaving in a way she'd never done with me. "You already have a fiancé. After leaving me, you immediately started dating that man for 6 years, right?" Makoto's voice was cold and resentful as he spoke, as though he'd truly suffered abroad. But from my perspective, his expression was smug, like a small man who had gotten exactly what he wanted. His indifferent attitude only made Laura more anxious. She held on to him tighter, like an octopus. "No, I don't love him. I don't love that man, he's just my agent," Laura insisted, her voice trembling. "Makoto, he just looks a bit like you. My heart has always been yours. I don't want him anymore. I only want you. I'll change agents to fix everything." She was so desperate, so willing to humble herself, something I never imagined would happen. No one could have guessed that the once proud movie queen would beg like this. And no one would have thought that I, Marco, the top agent in the entertainment industry, was just a stand-in. I had done so much for Laura's career, only to end up as someone who could be easily replaced. Watching them embrace and kiss in the yard, my hands clenched into fists, and my eyes turned red with frustration. "Laura, I never forgot you," Makoto said, smiling as he kissed Laura, casting a victorious look my way. I sneered but didn't open the door. I walked away, thinking to myself, well, may you two, her, the pretentious coquette, and him, the simp, be together forever. As for Laura between us, who replaced whom isn't quite clear yet. After that day, negative news and gossip about Laura spread online like wildfire. Among the most shocking rumors was the one claiming she was secretly keeping a young lover hidden in a luxurious apartment. A few days later, paparazzi caught her with none other than Makoto, the same man she had staunchly supported on the talent show. Soon, Makoto's dark past was uncovered by netizens. His parents had both been imprisoned for theft. He'd impregnated a classmate in high school, dropped out, and became a street thug, among other things. Public opinion was in an uproar, and Laura's fans were vocal in their disgust. "What? Laura chose such a boyfriend? He's just a scumbag," one comment read. "You don't get it. It's like a rotten pot with a rotten lid. They're both trash," another fan commented. "I used to think she and her agent were a couple. The agent is so handsome, how could she be blind? If rumors like this came out before, I would have had the PR team fix everything. But this time I didn't intervene. Let the scandal between Laura and Makoto take over the headlines, I thought. From an agent's perspective, an artist with ulterior motives should be left to grow wild, like a weed. Over time, the wildfire would burn her to the ground. From the perspective of a lover for 6 years, though, it was Laura who had been unkind first. She couldn't blame me, Marco, for watching all of this unfold with indifference. When colleagues and old friends in the industry saw the news, they called me to ask about it. I simply replied, "I'm not sure. Laura and I have already ended our contract." 3 days later, with the public fury still simmering online, I received a call from Laura. "Marco, what kind of agent are you?" she yelled at me, her voice full of fury. "All the insults against me online could pile up into a mountain. Are you just sitting there doing nothing? Or are you the one behind these attacks? You are truly malicious." On the other end of the line, she was relentless in her scolding. Clearly, she had been driven mad by the online abuse and had suddenly remembered she still had an agent. But did she ever think of me, her boyfriend of 6 years, while she was off playing with her white moonlight these past few days? "Miss Laura, I think you've been too busy to remember," I replied calmly. "Our contract expired a long time ago." I sneered as I continued, "Just when you were being all lovey-dovey with your white moonlight. We're finished, both in terms of work and feelings. We're done in every possible way." After that, I hung up and blocked her number. The world finally felt quiet, and my heart was incredibly at ease. Later, to escape the internet backlash, Laura disappeared from the public eye for a while. By then, I had already resigned from the entertainment company. The industry, always full of sharp people, was quick to pick up on my resignation, and soon, several companies with generous offers approached me. Half a month later, at a film festival, I saw Laura again. She was walking the red carpet with Makoto, their arms intertwined, looking incredibly close. Without me, her dress was the cheapest option available, though she still tried to project her image. The array of microphones, blinding flashlights, and aggressive reporters made the whole scene chaotic. "Hello, Miss Laura. Are you and Mr. Makoto walking the red carpet together to officially announce your relationship?" a reporter asked. Laura smiled shyly, snuggling up to Makoto as he smirked and kissed her in front of the cameras. "Let's keep it a secret for now. I want to announce this good news at the awards ceremony," Makoto said, though his words basically confirmed their relationship. The internet might have a memory, but it clearly wasn't a good one. As I stood nearby, those who knew me couldn't help but laugh. After all, for the past 6 years, I had been known as Laura's boyfriend. Now, I was just the infamous cuckold. While I was lost in thought, a reporter seemed to read my mind and asked, "I heard that Laura's agent, Mr. Marco, has always been rumored to be her partner. Is this true? Or is your relationship with Makoto an affair?" The sharp question made Laura go pale, and she instinctively glanced toward my corner. This caught the reporter's attention, and microphones were thrust in my direction. "Ah, Mr. Wang is here too. Can you give us a brief response?" one reporter asked. Laura's gaze felt like needles digging into me, full of panic and fear, but more so, a silent threat. She was afraid I'd say something damaging about her and Makoto in public. But in front of the cameras, I didn't lose my composure, nor did I want to be the target of public criticism. So I simply smiled and said, "Sorry, I've resigned." With those words, I walked away. Backstage, I took the list handed to me by the organizers. In the Best Actress category, I saw Laura's name. I remembered, before we had fallen out, I had used my connections to help her win that award, despite her poorly performing movie. But now, she had foolishly severed ties with me. She thought that after winning Best Actress once, she'd become the queen of the entertainment industry. But in reality, she wasn't even worthy of being someone's foot washer. Someone like her? Worthy of the Best Actress award? I scoffed, pointing at Laura's name on the list. I shot a cold look at the organizers, watching them tremble in fear. After all, they had secured the hosting rights because of my influence. "Shall we change it?" they asked, trying to please me cautiously. I nodded, scanning the row of actresses. My gaze finally landed on a familiar face, and I felt a surge of emotion. "No, let's choose based on merit," I replied, my tone firm. The award ceremony continued as planned, and soon it was time to announce the Best Actress. And now, the winner of the Best Actress at this film festival is... I casually glanced back from the front row. Because of my earlier promise, Laura was confidently adjusting her posture, waiting for the announcement. How foolish. She had already betrayed me, and now she still thought I'd let her win and announce to the world that she had cuckolded me. Or did she really believe she had what it took to win Best Actress? The Best Actress is... Let's congratulate Lisa. The camera focused on a serene, radiant woman standing under the spotlight, Lisa. She seemed stunned for a moment before standing up and smiling as she accepted the award. Behind her, a venomous glare pierced toward me, but I didn't bother to turn around. I knew it was Laura's silent curse. "Marco, what do you mean? You clearly said the Best Actress award was mine." Laura blocked my path on my way to the restroom, her face twisted with rage. I looked at her beautiful face, once a source of affection, now only repulsing me. "I've told you before, Laura, you became Best Actress because of me," I said coldly. "Without me, you are nothing." My expression was dismissive, and it hit her arrogant pride hard. "You bastard! You just want revenge, right?" Laura spat, her face turning frenzied with shame. Then, in a fit of anger, she raised her hand to slap me. I grabbed her wrist sharply and, without hesitation, slapped her back, leaving a red mark on her cheek. You dare hit a woman?" She held her face in disbelief, staring at me in shock. I sneered, wiping my hand as if I had touched something dirty. "I don't hit good women, but for a slut like you, I'll hit one every time I see one," I retorted. "Get lost. This is the men's restroom. Do you want to make tomorrow's headlines? Laura attacks men's restroom?" I watched her flee in panic, spitting on the floor as I turned to return to the venue. "Marco." But in the hallway, I heard a familiar voice. I turned to see Lisa, dressed in a white gown, quietly watching me. "Did you give me this award?" Lisa asked, her voice soft. "Marco, are you planning to use this award to crush me again?" Lisa was my first love. We had met at a banquet, trying to secure film investments. She was an actress brought in by the production team to play a minor role. The coal boss investor, however, had been leering at her, trying to take advantage. She was the national goddess Lisa, with a face as pure as jasmine. At that moment, her face had flushed red from the man's humiliation, but she refused to yield. She was like a resilient reed, standing tall despite the pressure. She rejected the coal boss's room card, but he forcefully pressed her onto the table, hurling filthy insults. "Stupid slut out here to entertain, what are you pretending for? I'll take care of you right now," he threatened. But he had money and no one dared to intervene, except for me. Bang! I picked up a wine bottle and smashed it on the old pervert's head. The red liquid spilled. Whether it was wine or blood, I couldn't tell. "Mr. Zhao, acting like a hooligan in front of me, isn't that too much?" I said calmly, as the man rolled on the ground in pain. I squatted down, patting his face. When he saw my face clearly, he gasped and fled. Because I am Marco, the sole heir of the Wang business empire. Being an agent was just my hobby. Lisa was very grateful for my rescue, and we quickly became good friends. At first, I was curious, because in the entertainment industry, few women remain pure. But Lisa was famous for not succumbing to the unspoken rules. Despite her breathtaking beauty, she could only land small roles. "I love acting, not being a star," she had told me, which was exactly the answer I wanted. I looked at Lisa, her bright phoenix eyes shining with love and dreams, like stars in the sky. And I was the one who could easily pluck the brightest star from the sky. Naturally, she became my artist and my lover. She was the high-cold goddess in the eyes of fans, elegant and pure like a swan. But when facing me, she was a shy, simple girl. Many times in the middle of the night, holding her slender waist and kissing her, I could feel her gentle trembles, shyly nestling in my arms. "Marco, I love you. I love you so much," she whispered. Her soft voice was like sweet candy that no man could resist. So every night the kisses became more passionate and the love grew more intense. But later, we broke up. In those years, with my connections and manipulations, Lisa became a hot commodity in the entertainment industry. It was during this time that I suggested we break up, a drastic, cliff-edge breakup. Without me to rely on, Lisa's resources plummeted, and she returned to playing minor roles, subject to the whims of others. Why, Marco, yesterday you were talking about proposing to me. Today isn't April Fool's Day. This joke isn't funny, I said coldly. Lisa's eyes filled with tears as she trembled, questioning me. It wasn't because of how she was treated by the crew, but because of our inexplicable breakup. I turned my head away, unwilling to look at her, and hurtful words poured out of me. Why? Because I'm tired of you. Ha! You're such a bumpkin who's never seen the world. A little sweetness, a wave of the hand, and you come running. Lisa, look at your background. Everything you have is because of me. What right do you have to be with me? My cruel words would have made any ordinary girl cry and run away. But she just stood there, staring at me. Lisa shook her head, her red eyes full of sorrow, like a river flowing against the current. She stepped forward and hugged me, her tears soaking my shirt. This was the most humble posture for the once proud her. I don't believe it. If you're really like this, why did you save me back then? You know I was with you not for fame or fortune. I sneered, lifting her chin and lightly patting her face in humiliation. I just wanted to see you rise to the top and then fall back to the dust overnight. It's very amusing. The taste of being lifted up and then destroyed. Doesn't it feel great? This is who I am, and there's nothing you can do about it. With that, I pushed her away forcefully and pulled out $1 million check, throwing it in her face. Get lost. Take the breakup fee. Keep it. Lisa stood there, frozen, as I walked away without sparing her a second glance. The rain poured heavily as I stepped out into the downpour, my eyes fixed on the scenery outside the car window, silent. Only the driver that day knew that the young master cried alongside the rain. Marco, are you planning to use this award to crush me again? Years later, I saw her again, standing in the same spotlight of fame and fortune. The pull of the white moonlight was undeniable. Lisa, who once appeared as delicate as jasmine, had transformed into an alluring white rose. The moment I laid eyes on her, my heart began to race uncontrollably. Just like when I had seen her backstage earlier, my pulse quickened. Lisa. After so many years apart, I wanted to ask her how she had been, how her career was progressing, and perhaps even explain the misunderstandings that lingered between us. But as usual, I found myself at a loss for words. In the end, all I could manage was a bitter truth. No, this is what you deserve. Those words came straight from my heart. After our breakup, Lisa had to endure everything alone. She was, after all, an exceptional actress, the best among them, deserving of the Best Actress award far more than someone like Laura, a mere prop in the industry. Do you really think I would believe you? People don't fall into the same river twice, she replied, her eyes filled with the same proud and aloof expression I remembered. But now, her eyes were slightly red, and she bit her lip as she confronted me. Or are you just using me to make Laura jealous? Laura? What does she have to do with this? I frowned, shaking my head. How can you even compare to her? My words were intended to show that someone as shallow as Laura could never hold a candle to Lisa. But unexpectedly, Lisa frowned at my response, walked away in frustration, lifting her dress in anger. Sigh, after all these years, her temper had only worsened. Watching her retreat, I found myself missing the shy, gentle girl she used to be. Congratulations on winning Best Actress, I called out softly to her in the empty hallway. Her only reply was the sharp click of her heels, seemingly stomping even harder as if in defiance of my words. Even now, she was so undeniably adorable. The news of Lisa's win as Best Actress hit the headlines in no time. An actress with no connections, no backing. Her success was bound to stir up rumors, especially since this time she had managed to upset the fragile Laura. For days, headlines like, Lisa steals Laura's Best Actress title, and Lisa becomes a plaything for the elite, flooded the internet. With Laura discreetly hiring trolls to manipulate public sentiment, the internet was filled with harsh comments. Oh my God, she's so shameless. This Best Actress award clearly belonged to our Laura. How can this seductive vixen be so hateful? Haha, pretending to be pure and innocent, but who knows how many people she slept with behind the scenes? I heard the award was originally Laura's. Her name was even engraved on the trophy before Lisa snatched it. Poor Laura. Lisa, get out of the entertainment industry. Get out. The waves of negative press, vicious insults, and degrading language crushed Lisa, as if a mountain had been dropped on her. It seemed like overnight. She had become the scapegoat for all of Laura's failures. Sitting in my office, scrolling through the absurdity of it all, I couldn't help but smile coldly. "Brother Wang, is it time?" My assistant knocked on my door. I nodded. It was time. As the insults reached their peak, an influential blogger finally spoke up for Lisa. But watching the film, Lisa's performance was undeniably great. She breathed life into that minor role, far more than that vase Laura ever did. "Has everyone forgotten what Laura said at the red carpet?" the blogger continued. In the interview, Laura claimed she had good news to announce on stage, but at that time no one knew who the actual winner was. How could she be so sure she'd be up there? Dear audience, have you figured out who the real protagonist of this drama is? These words shifted public opinion dramatically. The online insults began to die down as the tide turned, but the opportunistic netizens weren't done yet. But Lisa must have a backer. I'm a staff member and saw her backstage being overly familiar with a high-ranking man. Are there any pure women in the entertainment industry? They're all corrupt. If she's truly innocent, she should prove it. These comments stirred something inside me. It was time to make things official with someone and mend fences. "See, Marco? Even without you, our Laura won't suffer," Laura said, standing before me hand in hand with Makoto, both wearing smug expressions. The online backlash was still escalating, and they had obviously put a lot of effort into this campaign to exact revenge. Looking at Laura's gloating face, I felt an unfamiliar deep sense of aversion. How had I been so blind? 6 years spent with someone like her? Now it seemed she and that pretty boy Makoto were a perfect match. It was I who had escaped the misery. This kind of tactic is like harming yourself to hurt your enemy. Lisa won't care, and I see you both as a pair of perfect fools, I said, without a trace of sympathy. "What did you say? You dare insult me?" Makoto, who was nothing more than a thug, instantly morphed into a rabid dog at my words. He shoved Laura aside and raised his fist to strike me. Dealing with someone like him? I didn't even need to lift a finger. I simply pointed behind him. "Oh, look, when did the reporters get here?" At the mention of reporters, Makoto's demeanor shifted instantly, turning into an obedient little boy. Laura had worked hard to clean up his image, explaining away his scandals as mere rumors. But when he turned around and saw no one behind him, his face twisted back into a snarl. "You tricked me?" Furious, Makoto lunged at me, like a beast bent on destruction. Just as his fist was about to land, a loud click echoed in the air. This time, the real reporters had arrived. I took the punch, but Makoto's violent behavior was caught on camera, live. In an instant, all of Laura's carefully crafted efforts to rehabilitate his image crumbled to dust, and they were back to square one. "Marco, we've known each other for so long. Do you really have to push me this far?" "If you're still angry, still jealous, then I'll apologize, all right? If you want, I can," Laura said, her tone softening as she hugged herself, trying to negotiate with me. "Can what? You don't think I'm still pining for you, willing to be your secret lover like before, do you?" "Laura, it's morning," I replied coolly. "It's time to wake up from your daydream," I interrupted her, genuinely amused by her audacity. I'd never encountered someone so shameless. As security escorted her out, Laura continued to shout at me. "Marco, if you help Lisa bully me, I'll make sure neither of you will have an easy time." What a joke. Who would truly make whose life difficult was still up in the air? His. Be gentle. Lisa's touch was delicate as she applied medicine to my wound. After the earlier commotion, I didn't know how long she had been standing outside the door, quietly watching. She only came over after everyone had left. "Now you feel the pain. Why didn't you dodge that punch earlier?" she teased. "Did it make your heart ache? You're such a smooth talker, I wasn't worried," I responded with a faint smile. Her hand trembled slightly as she applied the medicine. When I gently held her hand, she didn't resist, but instead her eyes reddened. "Laura targeted you, and I'm sorry you had to suffer, Lisa." Hearing that, Lisa's posture, once so rigid, softened, looking incredibly vulnerable. She had earned the award purely on her own merit, but Laura's jealous rage had subjected her to endless online abuse. All those insults piled up like snowflakes, gradually forming a snowball that could crush anyone. Lisa had endured it all on her own, never confiding in anyone. My small gesture of concern caused her emotions to break. She sniffled, crying, and threw herself into my arms. I gently stroked her hair, wiping away the sparkling tears that fell from her eyes. "Lissy, let's get back together." I held Lisa tightly, as if she were the most precious treasure in the world. Those 6 years with Laura, although fulfilling in some ways, had left me with a deep sense of disconnection, and for a long time I hadn't felt real love. But the moment I reunited with Lisa, my heart began to race, and I finally understood what love truly was. "Are you lying to me again, Marco? Are you going to deceive me like before? Are you planning to lift me up high just to let me fall again?" Lisa wiped her tears and softly questioned me, unwilling to leave the warmth of my embrace. "Is your father's uremia cured?" Lisa froze when she heard this, clearly not expecting me to know about it. "A kind person helped. How did you know? Could it be?" She trailed off, stunned. I sighed and began to explain everything from the past, all the grievances I had bottled up for so long. Back then, Lisa's father had been suffering from uremia and urgently needed a kidney transplant to survive. At the time, her career was soaring, but she hadn't told me about her father's condition to avoid worrying me. With all her connections, there was no way she could find a compatible kidney on her own. Meanwhile, someone informed my father about our relationship. He was a businessman who despised actresses and used that information to coerce me into leaving her. I still remembered the look on my father's face when he laid down his ultimatum. He told me that if I left Lisa and agreed to pursue Laura, he would help find a kidney for Lisa's father and cover all the expenses. At that time, I had no control over the business yet. I was left with no choice but to part with Lisa, and I said the harshest things to her. As I spoke, I felt something wet on my chest. Looking down, I saw that Lisa was crying, just like when we broke up. "Lisa, do you still blame me?" I gently cupped her face, my voice full of tenderness. "I do blame you," she said, hitting me lightly with her fists, her voice still choked with tears. "I blame you for not telling me sooner." Lisa and I got back together, but the news exploded again. This time, the headline read, "Shameless woman hooks up with Wang family's old boss, caught in the act of being a mistress." The accompanying video indeed showed Lisa getting into a car belonging to the Wang group, with some blurry, suggestive footage. Upon investigation, I discovered that the footage was from a TV drama over 10 years ago, with faces AI swapped to make it look like Lisa and my father. The comments online were even more interesting. "Wow, Lisa really does have strong backing, huh? That old Wang man is over 70, and she still wants to sleep with him. She must be starving. Tisk, tisk, tisk. Such a woman will stop at nothing to get what she wants, even if it means eating anything. She used to pretend to be pure and innocent, but she's just a slut after all." These filthy comments gave me a headache. I quickly closed the video and immediately forwarded a link to the group's legal department. Meanwhile, I received a text from Makoto. "You're still far from being able to fight us." These idiots, scheming in the entertainment circle was child's play. But daring to mess with the Wang group and my father, they were really kicking a steel plate. As the online noise escalated, I kept Lisa silent, while the Wang group issued 2 official statements. One was a legal statement declaring we would take action against the rumors, including a lawyer's letter with Laura and Makoto's names listed as defendants. The other was an official announcement of our relationship, with a simple message: "No backing, just a good wife," along with a picture of our marriage certificate. There was no more dignified way to announce our love than to have it front and center on the front page of a major corporate website for 7 days, and this dignity was something I wanted to give Lisa after all the suffering she had endured over the years. But that wasn't enough. I used my connections in the entertainment industry to bring up all of Laura and Makoto's old scandals, her cheating, winning fake awards, fraudulent donations. Everything I had previously suppressed now came to light, and Makoto's carefully crafted new image collapsed overnight. The fat woman who had flirted with him at the banquet still held a grudge. She prepared a bombshell and revealed Makoto's numerous wrongdoings abroad. It turned out Makoto had never been driven away by Laura's family. He had taken money from them while also having an affair with an American woman living a carefree life abroad. According to the timeline, he was still with Laura when he was also with the American woman, and the two even had a mixed-race son. He returned because he was caught cheating while his American partner was pregnant, beaten up by foreigners, and fled back to stage a reunion with Laura. I held Lisa as we finished reading the scandal on the computer and couldn't help but laugh. Amazing. Truly more dramatic than a movie, I said, as Laura and Makoto's reputation crumbled. I heard that after everything was exposed, Laura and Makoto had a massive argument. In a fit of rage, Laura completely lost control and stabbed Makoto in the stomach. When the police arrived at their house to arrest them, they found Makoto lying in a pool of blood, barely alive. But Laura was nowhere to be found. The former movie queen had turned into a fugitive, an unfortunate turn of events. Actually, she was no longer a movie queen. The awards of a disgraced artist had long been revoked by the committee, with plans to be reissued at the upcoming film festival. Before accompanying Lisa on the red carpet, a shadowy figure snuck into the dressing room. When I discovered the figure hiding in the corner, I dragged them out, only to realize it was Laura. She looked utterly haggard, filthy, like a beggar, and she reeked of decay. She must have been hiding in a garbage dump to evade the police these past few days. I pinched my nose in disgust, quickly shielding Lisa behind me. Laura's gaze was sharp and venomous, like a cornered wolf's. "Marco, please save me," she pleaded. "My family abandoned me. No one wants me. Don't you still love me? Please save me." She stumbled toward me, her smile grotesque, uglier than a cry. But I kicked her to the ground, feeling nothing but repulsion. "I'm married now, lady. What kind of delusional dream are you still having?" "Marco, you ungrateful scoundrel!" she spat. "Without me, the movie queen, what would you be? As an ace agent, I am your glory, your badge, and that vase behind you is nothing." She called me fickle, but it was she who left me and found someone else. Seeing her tear off her mask in anger, I just sneered. Grabbing her by the throat, I looked down at her with cold eyes. "Laura, I did consider it. I thought about loving you sincerely. I thought about marrying you. But all these years, you only saw me as a replacement for Makoto. You were blind to treat me like that bastard. When you used his photo as your chat background, when you engraved his initials on our ring, did you ever think about me? Laura, people like you don't deserve happiness." I looked at her, disgusted, as if she were nothing more than garbage, and then shoved her away. Laura staggered and fell to the ground, her despair palpable. I turned my attention back to Lisa, who was quietly wiping my hands, and I could hear Laura's sobs. "Bitch, it's all because you seduced Marco that he stopped loving me," she yelled, her voice shrill. I hate you both!" A sharp scream pierced the air, followed by a flash of a knife. Laura had raised a blood-stained knife, charging at Lisa with murderous intent. Bang! The next moment she screamed in agony. Her hand, still holding the knife, had been shot, leaving a bloody hole. The police had arrived just in time and swiftly subdued her. It turned out that Lisa had secretly called the police, and they arrived just in time to witness Laura's violent attack. As Laura was escorted away in handcuffs, it was our turn to walk the red carpet. I held Lisa's hand firmly and walked past the disheveled Laura, who was being led away in disgrace. Smiling, I turned to her and said, "Sorry, you're blocking the way of the real movie queen."